Los Angeles is home to some of the most iconic locations in the US. From the Hollywood Walk of Fame to Rodeo Drive, Santa Monica Pier to Muscle Beach. It's a city I have long had on my list, but it's one of those places that I figured I would just eventually get to one day. I never made it a huge priority, but now that I'm based in the Pacific Northwest and I'm only 2 hours away by plane, and thanks to some Delta miles I had racked up, this flight only cost me about $6 each way, it seemed like a pretty good time to finally get down to the US's second largest city. Whenever I asked my friends who were more familiar with LA than I was what I should do when I got there, they all rolled their eyes and said it didn't really matter because I'd be sitting in traffic wherever I tried to go anyway. So I prepared myself mentally for some Mexico City level bumper to bumper, see you in a few hours kind of traffic. And I'm not gonna lie, that didn't really happen. Now granted, I was on vacation, so I could travel off peak. I didn't have to go, first thing in the morning when people are on their way to work, and I could avoid it, between 4 and 6 and just simply enjoy the sunset wherever I was. I have no doubt it's as bad as everyone says it is, but on this trip, it did not in any way hinder my experience. It was a little bit bad at some times of day when we were trying to get from one side of LA to the other, but in general, I didn't have to plan my trip around the traffic like I thought I was going to have to, and it wasn't that big of a deal to get from, say, the Hollywood sign to Hollywood Boulevard or from Hollywood Boulevard over to Beverly Hills. But we did plan to visit each neighborhood, like sort of region, one day at a time. So because of people's views about the traffic and their assistance with guiding me towards sticking to like zones on each day, I do think that helped avoid a huge amount of traffic by trying to go from like Santa Monica all the way over to Koreatown or something throughout the trip. So it worked for us, and I highly recommend sort of planning your trip around neighborhoods instead of trying to get across the whole city in a single day. The first stop on my whirlwind trip in LA was to the Hollywood sign. I did a lot of research about the best places to see the sign, some with tourists and some with fewer, and the one that caught my attention most was the Lake Hollywood Reservoir. The reservoir has a 3.5-mile loop all the way around it, but you don't have to walk very far from the parking lot to start seeing the Hollywood sign. It was also a nice spot to look out at some of the surrounding Hollywood Hills. After having this almost entirely to ourselves, we headed to the much more popular viewpoint, the Griffith Observatory. But to get here, we parked our car at the bottom and walked up. You can drive to the top, but the traffic at the top was pretty excessive, and you have to pay $10 to park there. So we used the power of our legs on the dusty path to get to the top, where thankfully there was a cold water fountain to refill our bottles.
That's how hot it is. It's about 5 p.m. Still pretty hot.
The Griffith Observatory opened in 1935, and it is the most visited public observatory in the world. It has a lot of interesting information inside and more fantastic views of the LA basin on the other side. While in this part of LA, it made sense to stop over at what, in the end, was one of the most memorable places that we visited on this trip, Hollywood Boulevard. It was cool to see the Chinese theater and the handprints and messages on the ground outside of it. But the thing that I loved the most was walking along the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It was so crowded and there were so many tourists, but there was also so much joy. Movies and music and performances affect us so much as humans, and we all have a favorite, and to see everyone spotting the star they were looking for, taking photos with the ones that excited them, the oohs and ahs, it was just such a joyful thing to witness. And of course, I got excited to spot a few as well. From the Walk of Fame, it's a short drive to Beverly Hills. You can take a drive down Rodeo Drive or easily find some free parking along one of the side streets and explore on foot. Good morning from my very LA pad here in Southern California. Today I'm going to Venice Beach, somewhere that I have had on the top of my list for this trip since I started planning it. I'm so excited to take you along with me. We're gonna check out Muscle Beach, maybe have a little peek inside Gold's Gym, see if we can find Arnold Schwarzenegger, check out the canals and the walking streets, and see what else we can discover while we're there. So let's go. I was amazed at how much free parking there was around LA, and Venice Beach was no exception. I found free parking with no time limit on it, and left it there for the day to explore the area. Venice Beach has so much to see. From the boardwalk to the walking streets, Muscle Beach to the Venice canals. We spent a lot of time just wandering the side streets and discovering little hidden gems. I did not, in fact, see Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I did go past Gold's Gym, which has a huge outdoor workout area and feels so California. Not many days a year that this type of gym would work in Seattle.
Venice Beach definitely feels like a neighborhood with like two sides. You have these beautifully quiet like walking streets, and around the canals it's so beautiful. And then the beach is like hustle and bustle and tourists, and lots of people like playing music on their bikes, and with the gym, and everybody's like just out and about. It has like a very different noisy kind of bustling vibe, but it's nice. So now we're gonna walk along the boardwalk all the way to Santa Monica. It should take about 45 minutes or so. And we'll go and see the pier there and what's up in that neighborhood.
From Venice Beach, it's about a 3-mile walk or bike ride along the boardwalk to Santa Monica Pier. You can grab bike rentals from Venice Beach, or you can simply use your feet to get there like we did. The walk took about an hour, stopping to snap some photos and eventually getting to the chaos of Santa Monica Pier, the end of Route 66. Built in 1909, the Santa Monica Pier was the first concrete pier to be built on the West Coast. There's an amusement park with rides, lots of colorful concession stands, and a big arcade to play some games.
The pier was very cool. It's not as busy as I thought it was going to be. Certainly a tourist attraction, but even just walking through, I mean, tomorrow's the 4th of July, so it's a pretty busy touristy week, but didn't have to muscle our way through anywhere. And still plenty of space once you get out off the main part of the pier.
I hope you enjoyed exploring a little bit of LA with me. This was such a fun first trip to this huge city, and I know there is so much more to explore on a second trip. A return visit means I can skip the tourist sites now and dig a little bit deeper, discover the best taco spots, amazing Korean food, cool museums, and maybe see some of that famous LA traffic. Thanks as always for watching, and I will see you next time.